Welcome to Symplicity Conversations, where we explore the intersection of business, technology, and human experience. Today, I'm joined by Carmit DiAndrea, Director of AI Data Management at NICE. Together, we'll dive into how data, AI, and human insights are transforming customer experience, and what it really takes for organizations to unlock the full potential of intelligent CX. So we're going to start first with our Symplicity Insights, and this is our quote of the day. I love this one. It comes to us from Maddie Stepanek. Technology is best when it brings people together. So true. I know that there's a big push for AI and automation, but at the heart of all of this and what makes the magic is the human connection, I believe. So before we get started, let's make sure that you subscribe to Symplicity Conversations so you never miss an episode of the future of business, innovation, and customer experience. So Carmit, thank you so much for joining me today. Lovely to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
So before we get into things, tell us a little bit about your role at NICE and what excites you most about working in customer experience, analytics, and automation.
Absolutely. I actually have a really interesting role at NICE. I'm part of the data analytics and AI product team. And so what that means is that I spend a good portion of my time with some of our largest and most innovative customers, sharing our unique approach and value proposition when it comes to AI, and learning about the problems that they're trying to solve with technology. I take that information back to our product teams to help shape and refine our development roadmaps. I also spend time with industry analysts, learning from them and from their clients about what they're seeking in technology innovation. And I do a lot of enablement of our sales teams to help them effectively position NICE in the market. I'm a data analytics geek. It's where I've spent my entire career. And I think the most exciting part for me is seeing how we're more automatically and more swiftly converting data into insights and then insights into action using innovative technology.
You know, there's this initiative that C-level and executives are saying, hey, we need AI, we need automation, but how to prioritize that, what that means, and what you're going to do with it is so important. And I think people trying to just shove things in without really having a plan, is a big deal right now. And I love that you're really translating between what you're seeing at the customer, what they're asking for, and bringing that into NICE and being able to impact, future features and how things are happening. I mean, I think that's crucial to have your role at a service provider because there's always a disconnect between what are the features that the products offer and are those really the ones that make the biggest impact and difference for customers? So your role is crucial.
Absolutely. Yeah, it all comes down to quantifiable value back to the business. And if you can't deliver it, then it doesn't matter how innovative and interesting the feature or function is. It needs to deliver business value.
And people need to learn how to read data and analytics. I think that's a true handicap right now where they're not quite understanding the data and how to make decisions and how to prioritize and how to pivot when they see something that they didn't expect. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think that has been a pervasive challenge in data and analytics for as long as it's existed. I think organizations now have more data than they've ever had in the past, and they're still struggling to harness valuable, quantifiable insights out of that data. And so one of the other exciting things about AI is the ability to automate some of those analytic processes, to automate the interpretation of the data so that organizations can make decisions at the speed of business.
Yeah, that's really cool. And speed is definitely what's happening in technology right now. But so let's talk about, NICE has been a leader in this customer experience industry with technology. How would you describe the company's vision for connecting data, AI, and the people in that meaningful way?
Yeah, at NICE, we believe that our data, the largest CX-specific labeled data set in the industry, is a game-changing differentiator for us and for our customers. This data set and the 3 decades of work that led to the creation of this data set means that we understand customer interactions better than anyone else in the industry. So across verticals, across languages and channels, we understand all of the various different ways that customers express their needs, the tasks and the tools that contact center agents use to deliver customer outcomes, and the outcomes of those interactions. And so having access to this unique data set enables us to develop, train, and optimize AI-powered systems that drive the automation that organizations are looking for, that empower human workers incredibly effectively.
Let's talk a little bit about your background. You've had a front row seat to CX and how it's evolved over the years. How long have you been with NICE, and how has your career transformed over the years?
Yeah, so I've been with NICE for about 3.5 years, but I've spent my entire career in the customer experience space in and around contact centers. I've spent time as a consultant. I've spent a fair amount of time on the client side implementing some of these AI-powered solutions and driving value for organizations. And I've spent a fair amount of time on the tech side in very similar roles to what I'm doing today, really connecting R&D teams with the needs of our customers and making sure that what we build is going to meet their needs, not just today, but in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And what are some of the biggest changes you've seen, and how has NICE really led that transformation?
Yeah, it's funny, when I started in the industry, I guess almost more than 25 years ago, we were doing a lot of work manually. We were doing quality assurance manually. We were doing data cleansing and data aggregation in a very, very manual fashion. And it's exciting to see all of the tools that are now available to automate those functions, to bring efficiency to those functions, and really automate the necessary manual, non-value add portions of those processes so that humans can focus on the value add pieces. That's really where I've seen the greatest shift or transformation. It's the ability to accurately and effectively automate manual low-value functions so that humans can focus on the value add, the important parts of their jobs.
We often hear companies say, I need to have, live answer. I need to make sure that humans are handling tasks. And what they don't understand is that's the most costly way of supporting customers. And I think the last statistic that I saw is 81% of clients or customers want to self-service. So the business is saying, we've got to personally be talking to them. And the customers are saying, just let me do the tasks I want to do by myself. So I think that's a big disconnect in, don't try to force that down your clients' throats. Listen to what your customers are saying and automate if that's what they're saying, because they probably are. If you really asked them and you really looked at some of the interactions and tasks that happen while you support your customers, they probably want to do it themselves anyways.
Yeah, it's a really interesting statistic. I was working with a customer actually just a few days ago, and their target audience tends to be the 55 plus crowd in terms of age group. And so they've been very reticent to do anything from an automation perspective. But we found some statistics from AARP that say that 70% of that particular cohort, they are interacting with automation technologies, and they want to. Yeah. And especially when we're looking at functions and intents like making payments and things like that. So I think, to your point, it's very intent specific. I think customers are very, very open across all age groups to doing certain things on their own. And to your point, they want to do that. I don't want to have to talk to a human in order to make a payment, in order to enroll in automated payments.
Right.
But there are other functions that are far more complex, where I think humans still want to talk to another human and have that connection. So I think organizations really need to listen to their customers, and they need to meet their customers where their customers are. So they need to provide automation because customers want that, but they also need to provide access to human contact center agents because customers still want that as well. It's very intent specific.
Yeah, you really have to allow them to self-serve, but then when they hit the button to say, I need to talk to somebody, you've got to have that technology that allows them to quickly, easily flip it into a human conversation, because
Absolutely.
that's where the frustration comes in. If they want to, okay, I tried it. I want to talk to somebody now. I need some help. You need to make that smooth. Otherwise, you're going to cause that frustration. And I think one thing that we see is a phrase coming up again and again in conversations about customer experience is that data and AI equation, right? What does this mean to you personally, and why is it such a critical focus for organizations right now?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very full phrase. The first thing that comes to mind for me is the rise of customer expectations. Customers expect a great deal of the organizations they choose to do business with, from highly personalized experiences to proactive service and nearly instant resolution. And so world-class organizations set the standard, and everyone else is held to that standard. I think that the second piece for me is the exponential rise in data volume and complexity. Organizations have more data about their customers and the activities of their customers, the needs and the wants of their customers than ever before, so much so that they're drowning in the data and really struggling to harness insights. And third, I think there's an intense economic imperative to do more and deliver more and better with fewer resources. So I think nearly every organization on the planet is trying to figure out how can they do the most effective job and use the data assets that they have to drive automation through AI so they can deliver more with less. Ultimately, I think it comes down to the data that you have that you can use to train highly performant AI solutions.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always been garbage in, garbage out, and it still is.
Absolutely. And we often say AI is only as good as your data. But from your perspective, what does it take for an organization to truly become data ready before putting the AI capabilities in there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, data is the foundation, and if the foundation isn't strong, then the performance of any AI system is going to suffer. And so for me, it comes down to data governance. And when I think of effective data governance, I really think of four pillars. There's transparency, there's accountability, fairness, and agility. I think transparency ensures that your stakeholders understand how AI solutions are using your data and making decisions using that data. Accountability means that every model has clear oversight by humans. And fairness ensures that any bias is detected and mitigated. And finally, agility allows organizations to adapt as regulations and technology evolution moves at the speed of business. So those are really the four things that I think about when I think of good data.
I also think that companies need to understand what rights they have to the data. You know, understanding the data that they have is probably very disparate in different platforms, but you have to contractually understand, and that's where that governance piece comes in. Do I have the right to use the data? So you really have to kind of have a good policy and making sure that you, just because you have the data doesn't mean that you have the rights to use it or bounce off from it. So I think that that's really important as a company to work with somebody that can really help them understand what you have, how you should use it, and then those steps to make sure it's optimized. Because I think optimization, like you talked about, it's going to transform those internal workforce, right?
Yeah.
You want efficiencies. You know, it's about customer experience. At the end of the day, you want to make your customers happier, but you also want to make your employees happier, you know.
Absolutely.
And
it's a really, really important balance. You have to do both.
yeah, it's you know, you don't just have to increase revenue to make your company more profitable, right? You know, sometimes it's about looking at how you're doing things and taking out some of the manual work, and that's really what a lot of what we see. There's human error in a workflow, but if you can automate certain things to eliminate that human error, you're naturally going to optimize. So I'd love to talk a little bit about, you know, when AI and analytics come together, they really transform that internal workflow. Can you talk about how NICE is really helping power those smarter, more connected operations?
Yeah, I think what we're talking about here is the concept of orchestration. And we've been talking about it for a very long time in the CX space.
Yeah.
We've talked about interaction orchestration, journey orchestration, workflow orchestration, and now engagement orchestration. And I think what all of these phrases are getting at is the need for centralized management of all of the steps and the systems that have to work in a coordinated fashion to deliver that smooth, efficient, and consistent end-to-end customer experience. So that means connecting CX processes across all of these interaction channels that we have. Every department that impacts the customer directly or indirectly, we need to connect systems and data and teams of humans and AI workers across the entire customer journey. And this is actually one of NICE's strong suits. Our strength isn't just in channels or data or individual processes, it's in the engagement layer. So unlike CRMs that manage records, we orchestrate these real-time actions. We combine the communication channels with intelligent workflows to coordinate the human and the AI agents so that every interaction moves the customer forward in a really positive way from a customer sentiment perspective, but also in a very efficient way for the organization.
Yeah, no, at the end of the day, it's about empowering employees, I think, you know, especially the frontline, you know, contact center workers. They have to be able to make better decisions and reduce that friction that happens on these calls, but also customize that personalized service, right? You want to be able to acknowledge how that person has interacted with your brands in the past. And if you can say, hey, I see that you called a month ago, how can I help? You know, are you still having a problem? That makes the person feel seen, right? From the very beginning of that conversation. So I think customer experience, when we encompass that, it's how can you as a brand make it like you run into somebody on the street and say, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you again. If you can do that, now you just really up the game of that brand, right?
You did, and you also, I mean, I feel like contact center agents have an incredibly hard job, and it's getting harder and harder because all of the automation has taken away the easy, light conversations. They're automated, so agents have a really, really tough job, and I think one of the areas where AI is incredibly effective is in augmenting and empowering employees to do their jobs more effectively, more efficiently, and with less mental burden. Excuse me. I think co-pilots are a prime example of this. And, you know, at NICE at least, we have 3 distinct co-pilots for 3 very different types of employees. I think the most obvious place is co-pilot solutions for agents that give them the right content and the right tools when they need it so that they don't have to search knowledge bases. They don't have to search various systems. So that helps to reduce the burden, but also helps to create more efficient and timely interactions. But I think as we're thinking about co-pilots and employee burden, we need to go beyond just the contact center agents. You have supervisors who are coaching, are training, are charged with improving the performance of of every agent. So Copilot tools for supervisors are really imperative because they arm them with contextual information about the interactions that their agents are handling, so that they can assist or intervene or provide assistance with full context of what's going on in the interaction. And finally, you have business leaders who have continued to struggle to gain access to their data in a timely fashion, to gain access to insight in a timely fashion. So we have a Copilot for business leaders, which allows them to interact in everyday language, conversationally, with their data, so that they don't have to rely on reporting teams. They don't need to rely on insight teams. They really can get their answers about their data and their business answered in a very, very quick manner.
I really do feel like optimization of each role, agent, manager, coaching. I mean, you can gamify, you can, the coaching tools and rating of a call, so that agent on the next call can be better because they can see, oh, here's what we suggest. You missed this, asking this compliance question, so that's why your score was lower. And they can see that immediately and go, okay, let me switch. So even by the end of a shift, you can see growth in that agent. And I think that's the key, because you don't, in the past, a fraction of the calls would be reviewed and monitored. And by the time the information got back to the agent, it could be days or weeks that, hey, we think you should work.
And they don't remember that interaction.
No. And so now having the platform be able to, by the time you hang up, have the transcript and have the coaching score, that agent can really be empowered. And at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want the agent to go, I can get better. I can do X, Y, and Z. So
there's pride that goes along with the job that they do, and it's a really hard job. So
it is.
If you can provide them in near real-time feedback, and even real-time feedback, can you provide real-time feedback as the interaction is going on, they feel this pride that they've been able to acquire a new skill set or solve a problem that earlier in their shift or earlier in their week they couldn't. That's empowering for agents, and we've seen it time and time again. Agent satisfaction goes up, agent tenure goes up, and so again, very, very positive for the organization, not just from an experiential perspective, but from a cost perspective as well.
Yeah, I mean, talent is very expensive, and traditionally, the turnover rate of agents, I believe, is 50-60%.
Absolutely.
And
maybe even higher.
Yeah, if you can shrink that saves you so many dollars, because the longer the tenure of an agent and the more optimization you have in that workflow, that's just, it's key, because then you start having richer conversations. The longer somebody's a seasoned employee, they start having better, more complex conversations. So it's just really much better for the organization to do that.
And I think based on the makeup, the age makeup, the profile makeup of your agents, a lot of your agents are already using AI. They're using it in their personal lives. And so they expect to be able to use similar tools in their work life. And if there's a disconnect between the way they can use AI in their life and the way that they're limited in using it at work, that impacts the way that they feel about the organization and the job. And so if you can give them tools that excite them, tools that work incredibly well, and tools that make their job easier, they're going to stay longer, and they're going to be happier while they're doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk about roadmaps. So what does a data-driven roadmap for AI success look like, and how can organizations identify where to start, where to go next in that AI journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. In the first quarter of 2025, at NICE, we released a product that's designed to do exactly that. We're using our own clients' data with their permission to identify the opportunities that exist within their business, to quantify those opportunities, and to create a roadmap for implementing AI-driven solutions to address each of those opportunities. It's called Automated Insights, and again, we start with their very own data and layer on top of that our domain expertise, our own AI models for classifying interactions and intents, and identifying everything from cost to serve, to experience, to compliance, to revenue opportunities within the business. And so by analyzing our own customers' data in this way, we really help them create a data-driven AI roadmap that is tailored to the opportunities within their business.
Yeah, it's so crucial, and Symplicity helps kind of gather and organize everything as well, where you have to look at the bigger picture. We have to join our clients where they are because they already have technology, they already have tech debt, they already have some type of plan, whether it's written or not. We like to actually meet them where they are, prioritize and figure out what's the best for the biggest impact, what's the best next step, and then start that process so that they can feel like they can make improvements quickly. Sometimes you can overlay systems and not rip and replace. It gets overwhelming for IT leaders to feel like I can't move away from the current technology. I've invested too much. I can't pull it out. But we've got a lot of solutions where you can overlay with what you're currently doing and solve some pain points without the huge price tags. And I know NICE is really good at doing that and helping identify what can we do to have to create some business outcomes, to create that success.
Yeah, we at NICE call that the Frankenstack, and every company has some variation of it. You have various different business groups making decisions, selecting, point solution vendors. You have the technology team that's selecting a platform, and when you look at all of the data and technology assets that you have, it's a lot. It's a lot of different solutions that probably don't share data well and play well together. And that's part of why in 2024, NICE re-architected our entire platform. We have the only platform in the market with a single unified data and AI layer that drives all of the decision making and all of the action. But we also built the platform in an open way, so organizations can bring in and integrate their existing tech investments into the NICE platform and have them act natively on that platform. That native action is really, really important because you don't want to have a different experience in chat than you do by voice. You don't want to have very different experiences across your languages, and most importantly, all of these solutions need to share data readily, so that when a customer interacts with a chatbot or an IVA and that interaction fails, when they then pick up the phone to make a phone call, the agent has full context of that. They don't pick up the phone and say, hey, how can I help you today?
Right, exactly. And I think that a lot of teams, IT teams, marketing teams, they're feeling so overwhelmed by the complexity of both data and AI. So let's talk a little bit about what are some first steps that they can take to begin unlocking that value quickly.
Again, I'm highly biased, but I think you really need a platform that is going to allow you to move at the speed of business, and that means that platform allows you to take advantage of your existing tech investment, as well as allow you the opportunity to select solutions that are best in breed, that are innovating and have everything work together. and NICE is that platform. But I think you also need to, as an organization, figure out where you want to start. Do you want to start your AI journey by implementing solutions that are customer facing? And if so, that's probably going to lead you to an IVA of some sort, whether it's voice, whether it's chat. Or do you want to start your AI journey with something that is internally facing, maybe agent facing, which probably takes you down the path of a co-pilot. So I think you need to pick the right key performance indicators. You need to figure out your success criteria for a technology solution. You need to select the vendors that best meet those criteria and start testing and piloting. I don't think organizations have the option of not engaging with AI, of not implementing AI. If they do, they'll be left behind. They simply won't be able to keep up with the organizations who are already implementing AI across their business. So I think you need to figure out where you start, and then you need to find the right platform that allows you to move quickly, but also take your existing technology investments with you.
Yeah, I agree. What are some recent success stories or real-world examples where NICE has helped organizations achieve transformation through that AI and analytics?
Yeah, I think we have many customers who have really bought into this idea that they need to use their own data to create their roadmap. And so the automated insight solution that I mentioned earlier, we have a few hundred customers that have engaged with that approach and really identified great automation opportunities, great augmentation opportunities, and because of our recent acquisition of Cognigy, which we believe is the best IVA out in the market. They've been able to really expedite their AI journey with automated insights, where we're identifying their automation path, their automation roadmap, and through our integration with Cognigy, we're able to take that data, that intelligence about their business, and use it to significantly accelerate the building of a conversational agentic AI solution that is customer facing.
That's really exciting.
It is.
What's one thing you learned about customer experience that you wish every business leader understood?
I think it's not complicated, and I think a lot of organizations forget this, but customer experience isn't someone's job within an organization, it's everyone's job, because customers vote with their dollars. If you don't give them an experience that they believe is best in breed, that competes with what they consider to be the best customer experience they've ever had, then they're going to leave. And so everyone's job is customer experience. Every single person within an organization should be focused on how do I do what I do in a way that is fast, is efficient, is accurate, and delivers the experience my customer expects.
So what advice would you give to leaders who want to embrace AI, but they fear the disruption of it?
I think we are past the point where organizations can afford to not engage with AI. I think every industry vertical, including the highly regulated ones, including the ones that were slow to move into the cloud because of data privacy concerns, I think we see leaders in every single industry that are using AI, testing AI, implementing AI in very successful ways. And so I think for business leaders who are afraid to dip their toe in, they don't have a choice. They really need to be leveraging all of the benefits of AI in order to effectively compete. So it goes back to figure out where you want to start. And we do see a lot of organizations starting with internally facing AI solutions. Again, co-pilots, because in their mind there's less risk when they're implementing this internally as opposed to solutions that face their customer base. But for every organization, that risk equation is different, but they have to decide where they're going to start, and they need to start testing and implementing because their competitors already are far ahead of them.
Yeah, it's I look at it like I do for my business. If I have a weak area, find somebody who that's their strength and let them do that, because you don't want to hold your company back just because that's a weakness of yours. So yeah, it's you just got to plow forward. Otherwise, you're just going to be left behind. If you had to describe the relationship between AI and people in one word, what would it be and why?
It's a great question. As someone that works in AI, I get questions along those lines nearly every single conversation. So what is the impact of AI on human work? And the question I get quite often is AI going to take over all of our jobs? And I think the answer is no. Humans will continue to play a very critical role in the workplace. AI has already begun to automate repetitive, lower value human tasks. But if you think about the ATM, the automated teller machine,
right,
it didn't obliterate the role of bank tellers.
No.
It simply replaced the process of humans swapping pieces of paper with machines doing that. And we actually have more banks per capita today than we ever did in the past, because the automation of that task allowed the tellers to focus more on the relationships and become relationship builders, as opposed to people who exchange paper slips for dollars.
Right.
And so I think in the contact center, we will see AI-powered agents continue to take over more and more transactional, repetitive tasks, and human agents will continue to handle the more complex and sensitive and emotionally fraught types of interactions. And I think we'll see brand new roles that we didn't even know could exist being filled by humans. When I started working in speech analytics almost 12 years ago, one of the best parts of that job is I got to identify top performing contact center agents and introduce them to a brand new job that they never knew existed, and a job in data and technology where they could start using these speech analytics tools to help improve the business, to help improve the way that agents were assessed and measured. And so that's, for me, the most exciting part of AI. Yes, it's going to automate and do away with manual tasks that in the past people had to do, but I don't know that we've really fathomed the new opportunities that it's going to create for the human workforce.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling what it's going to be able to do.
Yeah.
And it's moving so fast. So if you could have a conversation with any innovator in customer experience, past or present, who would it be, and what do you think you'd ask them first?
Oh, wow, that's a really, really tough question that I'm entirely unprepared for. Oh, wow, an innovator
I always
in
think of
CX.
I watched. I attended an event. Steve Wozniak spoke at our Tech Week event back in September, and to hear some of the early conversations and antics that he did, while knowing that he, was instrumental in creating such an innovative product that changed our world, right? It changes to this day what we do. And so I think from my perspective, it was interesting to hear his take on Steve Jobs and him. So I think I always think about that. Like, those would be the two people that to sit down and just really go, how did you know you were coming up with something that would change billions of people's lives?
I had an opportunity about a year ago to meet a gentleman named Byron Reese, and he is an AI futurist. He has a podcast. He's written a number of books in over 19 languages.
Wow.
And he was probably the most interesting person I've met in in a very, very long time, and very, very smart, and really he studies AI and the impact of AI on the human workforce every single day, and he had some really interesting thoughts about how AI might do away with human hunger and disease, and I think the theories that he has are really, really interesting, and I hope a great deal of them come to fruition. But probably the most inspiring conversation I've had in a long time, and he had some very interesting perspectives on AI within the customer experience space. So
Very cool.
I'm going to say Byron Reese.
Okay, well, I'll have to go look at his podcast.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's always nice to kind of give little nuggets to the audience of, you know, new podcasts, because, you know, you get stuck in that and how to find them. But Byron Reese, great. So for leaders who want to really unlock that customer experience equation, but they really don't know where to start, what do you think their mindset should bring to that journey? Where do you think they should be thinking?
I think they need to approach their search with openness. I think there's a lot of solution providers. There's a lot of innovation going on in the AI space, and so I think they need to understand where they're willing to start. I think they need to understand where their largest needs are, but I think they also need to be open to solutions that they haven't heard of, approaches that they haven't maybe considered, and really survey what's available to them, and what's going to serve them not just today, but in the future. So they need a solution provider that maybe is not just a point solution, but also someone that has you know, enough dollars to do a great deal in terms of R&D and explore and prototype and fail, so that they can have assurances that they'll not just have the best solution today, but the best solutions in the future as well.
And I think, you know, Symplicity's perspective on that is there's service providers out there, and we can help our clients understand why you would use one over the other. But behind my company, we also have technology service distributors like I use Intellisys, and that's ScanSource. Intellisys is a $4 billion organization that has all these resources to help. So it's this village. You have a village. You not only have this service provider that's leading the market like NICE, you have, you know, Intellisys, Symplicity, that really helps you learn how to craft that journey and navigate that. So I think that that's so important to understand that you don't have to be experts. We're the experts. We can help you understand the why behind it all, but you have to put that technology plan to it, I think.
I agree. I think that message of you are not alone is really, really important, and it's something that NICE believes in as well. We are a technology company. That is what we do. But we are expanding our partner relationships because we realize that there's a lot of expertise out there, and our clients need that expertise. They need that hand-holding, not just at the start, but on an ongoing basis in order to get the most return on investment on their technology investment. And so I think those partnerships, those relationships are really, really important. And for large organizations and small, they need to know that they don't have to do this alone. There's a lot of expertise out there that can be used to help them succeed.
Yeah, I agree. And thank you so much, Carmit, for being with us today and talking about this subject. AI is confusing. It's overwhelming for a lot. And we're starting to see companies where the technology IT leaders aren't necessarily the ones making the decisions. We're pulling marketing and operations. There's a lot of pressure from the C-levels. So it's really important to have that village to try to navigate where you are in that equation. And then what does the future look like? Look at that 5-year plan. You can no longer have just what are we going to budget this year and do this year? You have to look bigger. And I think that's where using the resources at NICE to help you understand the bigger picture really helps that equation.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, it was a pleasure. And thank you for tuning into Symplicity Conversations. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and visit thesimplepodcast.com. You're going to find more episodes on AI and inspiring business leaders like Carmit. Follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe on YouTube to stay connected. See you next time.